Just when we all thought it might be over, they'd pull them back in. Serving as a product of the end of a lengthy separation of the brilliant creative minds of Peter Laird and Kevin Eastman, and the rights to still publish a small number of black and white Ninja Turtles comics each year, the world received an incredible new tale involving the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles we all know and love. Well, sort of. Everybody is mostly dead and doesn't necessarily tie into TMNT continuity, but The Last Ronin was an instant classic at its October 28, 2020 release. Like the faint hum of angry bees in the distance and the sound of an overworked four-cylinder Honda engine doing everything it can to propel two forward wheels down a street, this is a spoiler alert. Splinter, deceased. Leo, deceased. Ralph and Donnie, deceased. In a not very distant future, this is the reality for the sole surviving member of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the sole survivor of his family, a distant, closed-off, cold, no longer fun-loving Michelangelo. Ronin, a word that sees frequent use in modern times, even if the meaning or definition doesn't always line up. It's a word from the Japanese language that translates to wanderer, referring to a drifter or a vagrant. Ronin has a much deeper meaning and a very long history. In feudal Japan, a long period in Japanese history running from 1185 to 1603 AD that saw Japan ruled more by military dictators called shogun than the emperor who appointed them. Feudal Japan was a very militaristic time period, resulting also in a time of the legendary Japanese samurai, a group of iconic symbols of great warriors, combatants, and martial artists. These military nobility were widely respected and feared during their reign, not just for their skills and armored appearance, but for the swords they carried and the legal right to kill anyone of a lower class, given the need. A samurai, although powerful and skilled, still needed a master. If no master existed, this samurai became a wanderer, a vagrant, a sword for hire. And since one can't just call a samurai a nomad or a mercenary, they were given the title of Ronin, a samurai without a lord or a master. Left to walk alone and without his master Splinter, Michelangelo became the last Ronin. Believing everyone was lost, he carries pieces of his family's belongings with him everywhere in an effort to honor and somehow feel connected to a life he no longer recognized. Eventually, Mikey is reunited with April, who he feared was also deceased, but was hiding out, living in the old lair with the daughter she and Casey Jones had together prior to his passing. Needless to say, this story is as incredible as it is heavy, as creative as it is sad, as powerful as it is truly heartfelt. The restored collaboration of the two great minds like Eastman and Laird is a monumental pairing, which has brought collectors another monumental pairing between NECA, Nickelodeon, and TMNT. Hey everyone, my name is Jonathan, aka JK of JK Collects, and in this episode we are taking a closer look at the NECA Toys Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles The Last Ronin Armored and Unarmored version. Hey everyone, welcome back, and here they are, the Last Ronin, both of the versions, the unarmored and the armored version, and we're going to take a closer look at both of them. So let's start with one, let's start with unarmored, and then we can build it up. Now, before I go into this, I'm going to be honest, I did not know a whole lot about this story from the beginning. I got to research it, learn it, and learn all about it, and that was exciting. That's one thing that I really enjoy about this, because I know something looks cool. It gets me more into it to learn more about it and to grow my wealth of knowledge as well as my collection. Yeah, so and that was driven by a friend of mine who is a big fan of this and was very excited to get these figures, the black and white versions, all that stuff. So well, that being said, let's jump into it. Anyway, very excited to add this to the repertoire. So here on the back, we got some images, some renderings, or maybe even photos of the figure itself. Very cool, very aged looking and worn. So I am excited to get into this. I love this haunting little picture right there, just lurking in the night with the hood on and all that. It's just fantastic. And then a little bit about The Last Ronin, some information about it. So just absolutely great to see Eastman and Laird working back together to get something as amazing as this. And then we got some drawings on the side here. Just so neat. And then the front holding the little sashes of his fallen brothers, just heartbreaking, right? And just about to, well, you can tell what he's just about to do, but gets interrupted, thank goodness, in the story. And there we go, another image of him packing packing Ref's Sai, some of his brother's stuff. So just really neat. I mean, look at this. Okay, let's just dive right on in. Let me get this old pin here and cut that little tape down the bottom. Now, I was lucky to pick these up, just FYI. I've been seeing them frequently on Target shelves. Now, it's not, obviously, you may already know, it doesn't really show up in the normal toy aisle. It's over usually in electronics and the collector's spot. But most of the Targets that I go to, it's actually just been sitting on the shelf, so I was fortunate to be able to pick that up. There's an empty box, and we're going to empty the little paper tray with a cool little red background on it. Both of those out of the way. Now let's get all this stuff out of here. Several different weapons. I'm very curious how many of them might be duplicates between armored and unarmored. I kind of hope that there aren't any, but you know what? We're going to see and find out together. So starting with unarmored, pull out all of these extra hands. And it's just interesting how they even make Michelangelo just look, you know, just worn out. These gray hands and just the tired look of everything that's going on there. Is he wearing gloves? I guess he's wearing gloves. Yeah, that would be, well, maybe. It's tough to tell. We'll look a little more closely and see. Oh, of course, that one's got the, we'll call it the McFarlane band, even though this is not a McFarlane creation. So I'm going to get the Sai out right now because it's just taped in. But the piece of Leo's sword, I can tell, is McFarlane in there, if you will. And then we've got the headband, the sash kind of sticking through. This little Robo Kitty thing is fantastic. And then I can see some McFarlaneisms back here holding Mikey or our Last Ronin in place. So we're going to flip it over, chop some of these out of the way. So we got one up there by the shoulder, one here on the wrist, another on the wrist, and another up by this shoulder. And looks like we have some around the feet. And let's see if I can get the partial katana. That one is stretched pretty tight across the katana piece. So be very careful cutting these things, as always. User caution for sure. I found it to be a lot easier. Another friend to thank for saying to stop using that plain, just bare blade and getting one of those pins. It's a lot more comfortable cutting such delicate things. Okay, but let's take a look at some of these weapons. Right, what a cool little hoard and cache that we've got here. Now look at this thing. I mean, I've seen, I believe it's called a tonfa, right, where it's like that, the beat stick thing. I could be completely wrong. You know, where you hold it like that and like it goes up along the forearm. But this is like a metal version, just for absolutely punishing somebody. But I mean, I do like the paintwork on it, right? So it's painted to look very metallic, but then it also has just that slight hint of some black on there to show some wear and tear and age. This is that kind of thing that I'm always asking for when we see something painted, like whether it's silver with a little bit of black, or black maybe with a little bit of silver or gray or something. But see, just it's irregular and it just shows grime and use, which it's a natural thing. Yes, we want stuff to look nice and pristine when getting a new figure. I get it. But for the reality's sake, it's always nice when it has that little bit of extra stuff going on. Okay, so let's shift to manual and let it focus in on Leo's broken katana. How just tragic and heartbreaking is it to see that? And look at that break. I mean, it's not just, they didn't just take plastic and make it snapped or whatever. They added these little cracks to it, and just this is definitely well done. I am a fan of that. I like the paint job on this. I like the work on the handle, right? Because again, we've got different colors to it. There's a little bit of darker brown inside this weave here. And then it goes into the gold. Now it kind of looks like some of the gold did bleed over onto the leather of the handle on the top and the bottom. But I mean, all in all, it looks pretty darn cool. It doesn't really show any wear, but you know, it's Leo's prized weapon, I guess. You know, that's where we'll say, I'll go against what I was just saying, and he keeps it very clean and polished. You know, Leo, he was just that kind of guy. Turtle guy. And then here's Ref's Sai. And you know what? Maybe Michelangelo, in honoring them, did his very best to restore these and make sure that they were clean. So again, very good job with the paint and everything, right? So it's a bright silver, very metallic looking, but then just the leather looking wraps on the handle of this, right? That's just with a little bit of different shades of brown in there to kind of help show depth and all that. And this does have silver showing, but it's intentional, right? So that's not the wrap, it is the metal underneath. Now up here, there's a little bit of silver. I think that is actually a paint error, but gosh, this thing's fantastic. Okay, moving on, we've got a Mikey's nunchucks with real metal chain connecting them. That is just fantastic. And then these, since he uses them, see it looks like they've got just wear and tear, fingerprints and stuff like that on the wood. So that's just neat. And then fuzz. We'll call that fuzz from the air. But see how it's just got the discoloration, the darker brown. Just neat because he uses these, right? He carries the other things with him, but he definitely uses these. And in theory, he uses this, right? So these two would be a little bit more dingy because if they're getting the constant use, and it just makes sense. But then he's honoring his brothers, and then here's the book, right? And look, I mean, it doesn't open, but that's okay. It probably would have been a little bit extra something for it to open. But there we go. It's very well painted, and it looks like it should open, right? The little clasps here, the lock painted very well. Looks like it's got that aged gold. The color doesn't wrap around the top, but that's okay. And then the spine looks very aged, and this just looks like that aged red leather book cover. Yeah, so all right, very cool on that. Here is the other head. So very awkward to hold just a round head like that. I don't know why, but I love just the detail on this, right? So we've got the wrinkles and everything with the deep black lines in there to really make them show. But then the age that's sculpted all throughout the head, right? You can see the texture of it. The spots on the back, they're a lot more pronounced than when it's a younger turtle. And then the different colorations of the paint job, right? So a dark green with some light green in there. The teeth are really well done, right? They're uneven. They show that age. They show that wear and tear. And then there's the very thin lips. So he's in a very aggressive, not happy, I'm ready to fight you stance. The sash being all black, it's painted very well. And then the rubberized plastic on the back that's plugged in back here adds a little something with that flexibility, right? It'd be really cool if it had a wire and you could pose it like it was in the wind and stuff. But I digress, and we move on to this little Robo Kitty M112. Now, I admit, not too familiar on the whole story of this one. If it's anything like Ice Cream Kitty, I'm here for it. But there it is, nice little chubby kitty. Kind of reminds me of the villain cat from Rescue Rangers. I can't think of its name right now, but hopefully you remember what I'm talking about. The old Rescue Rangers. But there we go, just very cool. I love the paint job on it. It's very simple, looks very much like a typical black and white little robot animal you would see, right? I'm not sure what's going on with the white here on the inside. It looks very uneven. I don't know if that's intentional. Forgive my ignorance for not knowing, but it does look odd. It seems like it would just be black on the inside there, but hopefully there is a specific reason for that. I need to do my post research now that I have this question raised and see if I can get an answer for it. And flexible tails, you don't have to worry too much about snappage. And then we have several different hands. Look at all these hands, right? Among the ones that are already on him. And I imagine there are more that are going to be coming with the armored version. So here we have, oh, man down. So we have these two in kind of like the battle ready pose stance, right? Got it out because ready to fight, you know? So we got those very well sculpted. I love the coloration on it, as I mentioned before. And then the pieces, the little pads here with the scuffs and scratches on them. Because all of this, Michelangelo himself, worn and torn, all of his equipment worn and torn. You know, he's alone. He's a Ronin. He cares, but he doesn't care anymore, right? He's not the Michelangelo we knew. He's just surviving, essentially, right? In many ways. And there we have it's like the holding the sai, right? So ready for battle in that grip where it's coming up the middle, and you got the forks, prongs, I'm not sure what they're called, coming out the side right there. And that's for either hand, so very cool there. And then this one, just kind of a neat, another little pose, winking the gun, if you will, right? Yeah. But there we go. So I am a fan of all of these. Very interesting, though, to see that the scuff marks are not the same, right? So yes, it has the 3 going down right there, but this is a little bit darker than this one over here. They're not identical, even when it is the same hand. So let's see, we got the thumb on the same side. These are a lot closer, but those two are definitely very different. It's just this one, actually, that stands out. I'm guessing that was an error, because that one's a lot closer, although some of the dirt's not there on that one. Anyway, I digress, and we move on to the man himself, the Last Ronin, the Michelangelo. So just what a presence, right? What a hulking presence that he has now. He just doesn't have that same limber ninja look to the younger Michelangelo Ninja Turtles, right? That we're used to. Yes, of course, he could wipe the floor with any of us, or really anybody, anything, but he just has that age, has that battle-tested, just beaten down old man look, if you will. It's old man Michelangelo, for lack of a better description. But anyway, taking a look at this face, very similar to the other one. We just don't have the open mouth grimace, so we're missing some of these lines here. So it's nice to see that there's a little bit of a difference, but the lines are still indicated with some small ones above, and the paint work on it is equally as brilliant, even if the spots are not the same. Right? So when he gets mad, he completely changes. He's someone else, right? So there, cue the myths of mask-wearing fake Michelangelos out there. And then we've got the same thing going with the wrap. This one is more spread out. These are together. They don't separate until about halfway down. Still not wired, which still would have been cool, but it can spin. So you can have it where it will, look like it's blowing at least a little bit in the wind. And same thing with this one, but it would have been really neat to be able to fully pose those. All right, now side to side on it, not terrible. The neck, of course, is attached to the torso, as you can see. Up and down. Down is okay. Up, neither of them are really that impressive. We don't have like a chin to chest thing. We don't really have much beyond straightforward. It does look up a little bit, but not a lot. You would think a ninja would be able to look all the way around, kind of like that, and it does, but he basically looks straight up to accomplish the Exorcist rotation. But we made it. Shoulder does not have a butterfly, and it is a little tight to start out, but it does rotate very well. I would much prefer tight over loose, so I'll take that. We do not have bicep, tricep, but we do have elbow rotation, and the elbow is what do we have here? Is it just a flex? Okay. So we've got a double elbow with a chunk of it being the actual elbow piece. So we've got this this joint here and this joint hinge here. So we've got a little bit of movement for the forearm, and then the rest up on the top takes over, but it still only accomplishes a little bit past like a 90 degrees. So with the musculature and this bracer, they kind of block a little bit of the flexibility, but that is very neat. It's a different design. The only thing that I see that really stands out is you go from massive musculature to that very small, which, yeah, that can happen on an elbow naturally, but not quite like that. It more looks like there's a skinny arm in a muscle suit, right? So it's like we're watching a, dare I say, a DC Comics DCU movie. Oh man, I said it. Oh gosh. But hey, you know what? It's all starting over. So there we go. We get a little bit of forearm rotation, so that's good, and it does seem like it truly is, because the wrist does turn with the bracer, and the wrist, of course, does have rotation, and with that hinge, we do have the forward-backward capability, but not a lot, also because of the bracer. And then that is a closed fist for it. The other side, same flexibility. We also have a closed fist as well, with that forward-backward kind of supination, pronation thing going on there. We've got waist rotation and waist movement. We don't have like a lower mid-torso, which makes sense. It's a turtle wearing a shell. That's a very kind of almost cartoony looking shell by there. But we do have good movement, and this whole thing here blocks the view of any kind of gap that gets created. As you can see, it flexes very well with the body. So for posing, we do have a lot of movement for that. So that's actually pretty good. Back, not a whole lot. Forward, it's okay, but I appreciate that we don't get a lot of gap, so we don't lose a lot of the reality, or realism, I should say, of a human man-sized turtle that knows martial arts. But then when you look up here, you also don't get gaps from underneath. Everything is properly done there. As far as flexibility, decent. Looks like we'd pull off a split. This kind of gets in the way a little bit, but it seems like it also just kind of stops right there. I guess, when you get to that age, a split's a little bit more difficult, but still, it's Michelangelo. He should be able to do it. Forward, backward, not terrible. Just about what we'd normally expect for a living creature that can walk on two legs.
side. Yeah, so pretty good. We don't have upper thigh rotation, but at the joint we do have pretty good rotation to make up for that. And there's not really a spot to put a line there for it, right? Because of the way that these pants are designed. The knee, we have a double knee, which is good. And there we go. And decent flexibility, right? He can still reach the toes to limber up. We'll pull it down, and we do not have, we don't have calf rotation, but we do have good foot rotation, a little bit of back, pretty good forward, and then, yep, he can do it. He can break the old turtle ankle. Bummer. All right, and then, of course, the other leg has that same functionality, even though the knee pads are different. So then, I mean, I don't know if you've been noticing the paintwork as we've gone, but it is absolutely fantastic. I do not see any flaws. One thing that is beneficial of the way that this is done, including having the paint on the back, which is fantastic, is it is damaged, right? It is scarred, it's messed up, it's dirty. So it kind of leaves room for error, even though I still don't really see any. You know, we'd have to look really close. Just all the dirt and everything, I think is very well done. You know, even the toenails look a little dirty. So even if that wasn't, come on, focus, work with me. So even if that was an error on the tip of that toenail, you wouldn't be able to tell because these other toenails are also dirty. So what I'm going to say is the paint job is very, very well done. And then we've got a lot of little belt loops for the accessories, or his brother's parts and pieces. And you know what? Let's reference a little bit and see if we can get an idea of what exactly is supposed to go where. So it looks like we've got Raph's thigh is designated to go here. So we can put that there. And then I'm assuming, based on the size of this loop, would be where these go. But it's odd because that's pretty far back. And then perhaps this goes here. Very interesting. And then maybe he would just carry that thing around everywhere. But there we go. There is our unarmored Last Ronin Michelangelo. And now we move on to the next step. And we take a look at the armored version, right? So same basic idea with the box. We've got an idea of him back here. And this is where we get that guy lurking in the shadows, in the hood, in the robe, the cloak, and all that. And then I love that. I love those glasses. They look like they're 3D glasses, but you know they're not. So very cool. All right, so let's pop into this one and get him out of here. This one also was sitting on the Target shelves. So I was very surprised. And that was when my friend said, you should pick those up and, you know, do a little quick video on them. I was like, hey, okay, twist my arm. So then I got them, and I'm thrilled to have them as part of my collection. Like I said, it was fun learning about the story. I've heard so much about it from my friend and had been interested, and you know, what better reason to be pushed into it than to add something to the collection. Now this one has this extra little panel on the top, right? I guess to keep everything in place. We've got some McFarlane bands going on here. Let's cut that free. I think that's it for the bands. I got a little bit of tape over here. Quite the combo. I appreciate when they do these things somewhat because it does prevent, like I said before, theft. And unfortunately, it can be a big problem. It always makes me sad when I see where there's been clear theft of some action figure or something like that. And you know, it's either going to the bin or some unfortunate person is going to pick it up and it's going to be missing something. It happened to me, actually. I picked up the What If Peter Parker Spider-Man from the zombie ones, and they had taken the Build-A-Figure piece out of it and just sealed it back up, which is fine. I wasn't trying to do that Build-A-Figure. I know I was still happy with what I got, but and he is trapped in there. I don't want that to happen to other people. So, anyway, moving on, we're going to cut these little McFarlane pieces out of there. Thank you, as always, for your patience as we carefully cut things free. Cut turtles free of their buns. Did I get them all? I think so. It looks like this one was another 4-piece holder, unless I just clearly missed something. It does not want to come out. The fists were stuck behind the plastic, so there we go. All right, that one was definitely a little bit more thoroughly packaged than the other one. But let's, and it's also a little bit more thoroughly accessorized. So we'll start with the sword. All right, so here we've got a full katana to match the broken one with a sleeve for it. So, you know, same basic idea, but this one is not as, like the handle is a little brighter, a little cleaner. So let's pull that other handle back out here. So right, the other one was a little bit darker brown. Same sword, it's just this one is a little bit lighter in color. Almost like a blue with a brown, or almost like the handle is, could it be a little bit? I don't want to know if I want to say that that looks a little more worn down because it was discolored, or this is a little more worn because it is colored and kind of dirty and dingy. But either way, same idea. Very well done on the paint, so I do like that. And I appreciate that it comes with a sheath for it. Just a solid gray plastic piece, slides in very easily. We've got another set of nunchucks, same construction, right? So same idea with the discoloration and the dirt looking on it. But it does look like it's a different paint job, right? So I wonder if they are all unique, or if, you know, there were just two different versions that were made. And there we have another sai, same idea, but it is a different sai because you can see the wrap here, the wrap is not the same as the wrap on this, right? Different color. But remember how we had a little bit of the handle poking through on that one? Now, whether this one just wasn't painted properly, you know, it is the same. I think it's just the paint is messing with me. Just kind of looking at the lines of the wraps here. And that one just didn't have any silver in there like that one did. Either way, it's enough to make it look different, and I appreciate that. And here we have Donnie's bow staff. How bittersweet to see this thing, right? Okay, so let's switch and let's get our focus so that we can see it. Just giving that idea of wood out of plastic as well as they did. Seeing the imperfections, seeing the waviness in it, the grain and all that stuff. It's just, they really did a good job. And then the wrappings having the dirtiness to them because they were a lighter color and they're going to hold dirt and hold that look. The paint didn't quite get around on the edges, as is a pretty common thing with a lot of these action figures and their paint jobs, but very well done in conveying the image of that. And here we have a matching one of these, but not matching in paint job, right? So this one is a little bit darker than the other one. So the unarmored is a little bit cleaner. It's almost like he got to go back to the layer, clean it up real quick, and take care of his stuff. But this one is while it's out getting dirty in the streets. But cool, you know, now you got two of them if you get both of these guys. And then we've got some throwing stars. So I'm counting 3. I felt like I saw 4, so it's possible that I lost one. I'll let you know if another one pops up. But there we go, 3 just little throwing stars cast in that gray plastic. So paint rub off and things like that, not really a concern. We'll park these guys over here. I'm going to go with a smoke grenade, right? A little smoke bomb for a quick escape. Just chuck that thing down. You got a little... Pff. Very well done to convey that metal look. We got a little red dot in the middle on one end, and then you got a little bit of black highlights to show a little bit of dirtiness and all that. So very cool. Happy to see that. Okay, so we got red on both ends as I roll it around. The red dot is not very well applied, as you can see. It kind of bleeds up and a little off-centered on that. Here's another head. A little bit more angry head from the other angry head that we had there. So stages of anger, I guess, is what we're dealing with. We've got another one on the figure itself, and I'll show you. We've got 4 stages of anger. There's mouth closed, slightly open, open a little bit more, and then open just all the way here. So there we go. And it's just neat to see the change of the way that the eyes are even sculpted and the wrinkles, right? So he's just getting a little bit more and more mad. This is full on angry, ready to fight. You better get out of the way. And yeah, the spots even changed yet again. So very interesting. As he gets more angry, his spots migrate. They're the Pangea of body spots. And then we've got 4 hands. So 4 more hands. We've got, these are 2 more sai hands. So that makes sense, right? Because different figure, you don't know, they don't know whether you're going to get the other one or not. But this one does come with 2 sai hands. And I noticed these are a little bit more, well, no. From the side, they look like they were a different color, but they are actually a very well matching color. We've got the 3 lines right there. It's just the little pads on the backs of the hands are a little bit different color. And then here we have an open hand, kind of a neutral-ish pose of both of them. Very well sculpted. These are all just very, very well done. positive things absolutely all around for this figure. And then, of course, we've got our little claw for climbing, right? Chuck it up on a building. And this is actually real string, right? To kind of indicate that it's real rope. It's a good color to make it seem like it is a small version of rope. I do love when real materials are used and it's not just always plastic or something like that. Now this is just a flat cast silver piece, right? So nothing special, no extra highlights or anything like that to show use or anything, but you know, still kind of neat to have. Okay, and then we move on to the pièce de résistance, the man himself, the armored version of the Last Ronin. So look at this. Oh, he's so cool. So cool. And then the hood is a separate piece, right? So it can pop in on the back here where this piece of sash would go. So that can pop out as it is rotatable. And this is another one that just kind of separates about halfway down, like the other one that we saw. And you can put the hood back on and the hood will go onto the other face. So see what I mean by the progressive mouth. So we had closed, grimacing more, open. So there we go, right? So the progression of anger of Michelangelo. But there we go. And again, this one's showing the wrinkles very well and how they just shifted even more to get to this point. And it's just very interesting to see how they've done that. How it's like the forehead is crumpling more than it is here. And then once he starts to shout, it kind of spreads out a little bit. So just neat. Same thing, neck attached to the torso. Same thing, flexibility. Side to side might be a little bit better here somehow, some reason. Up and down, we're looking at about the same. And then exorcist rotation is definitely a thing. And with the arms, I expect very similar flexibility. Now this one, with this elbow, does make a little bit more sense because it is a sleeve, right? So it kind of helps hide that massive change of size. And then especially having the elbow pad, which is not here, right? So it just kind of, it masks the difference in size where it doesn't quite look like a skinny arm poking out of a short sleeve shirt. We still have the bracer on there, again, very well painted, and then the wrist with the same flexibility, same wrist, a forearm rotation with wrist rotation and that forward backward. And then the other arm, same thing, both of these closed fists. Waist rotation and movement still a thing because these may look like they are a single piece, but they are separated. These are, this bottom, it is, yeah, it's the same piece. So that's cool. They reused it and it worked very well, so I don't blame them one bit. This top half is different, but it does give that same rotation capability, and you don't really get the gap that you see on some other figures when you have that. The legs, legs are also the same. So basically the bottom half, we're dealing with an identical Mikey, right? Nothing really different there. So I guess we don't really have to go through the whole rundown of that one. So it's got that same flexibility and capabilities. And then of course the paint job on it, just same thing, right? It's very well done. It's designed to be dirty. It's designed to be flawed. It's designed to be damaged. So it is an easy way to cover if there are flaws. But again, I don't know if you're seeing it how I'm seeing it, but there aren't obvious flaws. You know, we've got this super cool thing back here, right? Which I appreciate. It's flexible, so it can kind of help be protected, where you can stick things, accessories, right? Like the bow staff, I'm assuming goes right there. Yeah, that just makes sense. But that's just so cool. And then this is designed to look like it's just pieces of rope wrapped around to hold it in place. You know, maybe it tucks underneath that thing. Maybe I just put it in wrong, and you're like, oh my gosh, you said you learned, but you apparently didn't learn very much, did you? That just kind of maybe makes more sense, right? So there we go. But he's got the staff on there. But anyway, I digress. I'll get back to the topic at hand. Paint job, very cool. Figure, very cool. Both of them, I think, are an excellent investment. Let's see how they stand together. And they just stand with absolute ease because of just the flatness of the feet and the size and girth of these guys and the weight of them. So there they are. Well, that about brings us to the end of this totally tubular episode. Thank you for taking the time to join us, as always. Now, if we ever do a review of something that you are trying to find for yourself, please follow and DM us on Instagram at
at JK Collects Toys so we can help with the search if we do not already have a way of getting one. Also, if you enjoyed this episode, let us know. And let YouTube know by subscribing and clicking that like button. The more that happens, the more YouTube can recommend us so we can hopefully reach more collectors and help them find the things that they need. If you'd like to see some more videos, we have some links on your screen right now for you to check out. And remember, as always, collecting or not, we are all in this world together. Let's look out for each other. Thanks.